Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Cruzal. I'm the Operations Manager at Tal Global, and I welcome you to today's presentation that will focus on the essentials of organizational security. This is the latest free webinar in Tal Global's ongoing security and risk management series, and we're pleased to have you with us today. First, just a few housekeeping items to cover. The recording will be available for additional viewing shortly after the conclusion of the presentation. You'll be able to submit questions directly to us via our website, talglobal.com. For those of you who don't already know us, Tal Global is an international security consulting and risk management firm with over 25 years of experience supporting domestic and international clients with a wide range of security and risk solutions. Today's presenter is Oscar Villanueva, Tal Global's Chief Operating Officer. Oscar is an international security expert with decades of investigative, physical security, workplace violence, risk management and mitigation, emergency preparedness, and critical infrastructure experience. And he's here to talk about basic security industry best practices that all companies and organizations should be following. Well, with that, I hand it over to you, Oscar.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate that nice introduction. Today, we're going to cover the essentials of organizational security. And we're going to specifically talk about what every organization of any size really should have and put together for their security and workplace violence prevention and mitigation and management. Our objectives today is going to be to find ways to protect people and property, talk a little bit about the legal responsibility to protect people in the workplace, your employees, and also what type of legal liability there might be. It'll be included in the discussion. And then finally, how to mitigate liability by following longstanding security best practices. Again, everything goes to the basics that every organization should consider putting together for their security practices for their company, for their employees, and for the protection of their employees and their operational facilities. So let's talk a little bit about what are the elemental, the basic activities that every organization should engage in. First of all, it's really important to create and put together and implement a company-wide security plan. This is essentially how things are going to be done when it comes to any security issue. There should also be, for every organization and every facility that organization has, a facility security plan. Also, a workplace violence prevention and management plan or program, and then finally, an emergency preparedness and business continuity plan. These are the basic security and risk activities that every company, every organization should put in place in order to protect their facility, their employees, and their operations. So let's talk, let's narrow it down to each one of these categories, and let's talk about creating a company-wide security plan. So what you want to include in this is how the company will handle security. That could be from handling guards, if you happen to have security on site, to how you're going to respond to incidents should an incident occur at any of your locations. You also want to include in this plan who is responsible for what, who gets called in the middle of the night, so to speak, how incidents will be handled from a corporate perspective, kind of a high-level view at this point, from the C-suite. When you have a security incident, how you want that to be handled should be included in the plan. Eventually, you may have internal resources, but eventually you may need to bring in external support to help you resolve some of the security concerns or issues, or even putting together the plan itself. So it's important to consider and include in the plan when and how external support is going to be called in and asked to support your efforts internally. There should also be all employee training and then management and leadership training separately. All employees should be socialized to the need to be careful and to follow a see something, say something culture within the organization and report anything that looks suspicious. There's 3 areas that also should be covered in this training session for all employees. One is workplace violence awareness, security awareness, and then finally, one of the most important things that employees can learn, and that is situational awareness in how to understand the environment around them and report anything that looks out of place. The separate training for management and leadership is important because managers and leaders, supervisors, HR professionals are usually the ones that receive that initial complaint or that initial report of a security concern or a workplace violence issue. And they need to just know a little bit more in terms of how to handle those complaints and what to do about it. Also, in this plan, there should be some mention of how communication is going to be handled, to include how employees are going to be alerted to a security concern, and perhaps even how the media should be handled should there be any interest for an incident that becomes a little bit more serious. And then, of course, anything else that is a unique need for the organization should be included in the company-wide security plan. Now, narrowing it down even further, for every facility you have, there should be a facility security plan, which is very specific to that particular facility, including things like how incidents or how matters will be handled at the local level at that facility, what the evacuation is going to be like, if you need to lock up the place, how that will take place, potential practical exercises or emergency drills. You can also include in this facility security plan who can provide assistance, what law enforcement support you're going to call, and it's important to include in these plans specific numbers to local law enforcement and the local hospital where if you have injuries, you can take employees, the number for the closest support that you may need when it comes to these types of activities. So the facility plan is a little different than the overall corporate security plan. This is more specific to your facility and how things will be handled at that location specifically. Now let's talk a little bit about workplace violence prevention and management. These days, workplace violence has become a prevalent issue, a problem for lots of organizations, and is something that needs to really be paid attention to. It should really be a company-wide effort, meaning that the entire employee population should be included in concerns when it comes to workplace violence prevention and management. There should be a policy that the organization has in how each workplace violence incident is going to be handled, whether it is an attempted suicide or an actual suicide, or whether it is an active shooter situation or a threat or a called-in threat or harassment. All of those things should be included in a plan that can be put together for every organization and should be put together for every organization. External support, again, is necessary in case you don't have resources internally, how matters will be investigated, and then, of course, how to incorporate behavioral health support into the recovery once you do have an incident. This is very important because individuals at the company, employees at the company, will have been traumatized by whatever workplace violence issue has occurred. Sometimes it's the entire employee population, sometimes it's only a few, but whether it's a few or everyone, it is really important to consider the recovery afterwards so that you can get your business back to normal and back to work. This is a brief list of things. There are a few other components that should go into a workplace violence prevention and management program, but this is one of the key documents, one of the key policies and procedures that every organization needs to have. And along this topic, I want to talk a little bit about SB 553, which is the latest law that has been passed in California last year for workplace violence prevention. It specifically asks for every organization in California, with the exception of healthcare facilities, to create a workplace violence prevention plan. It has to be specific to the location, to the facility. It has to cover a number of different things to be compliant, and SB 553 is monitored and managed by Cal OSHA. It is similar to having the safety prevention programs that you have in place. This is just specific to workplace violence. The deadline for having this workplace violence prevention plan for each one of your locations, each one of your workplaces, is July 1st of 2024. So it is important, if you are in California, you have a facility in California, that you consider working on SB 553 compliance as soon as possible. The deadline, again, is July 1st. It's coming very, very quickly, and it's important to have that taken care of. Now, another area that's important for your business operation is emergency preparedness and business continuity. This is essentially what helps you figure out what to do in case of an emergency, whether it's man-made or natural disaster. And after you decide how you're going to deal with this emergency, you also want to know how to continue your business shortly thereafter, how to recover and how to keep your business running. That's what emergency preparedness and business continuity is. So in order to do this, it's important to develop a policy and procedures for handling it. And it could be a man-made situation, or it could be a natural disaster. Some examples for a man-made: you could have a civil disturbance, you could have a gas explosion in your facility. There's different areas that could be man-made. You could have an active shooter situation, for example, as well. Natural disasters, of course, are tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, those kinds of things. But whether it's man-made or natural disaster, it's really important to have a plan as to how you're going to handle that emergency when it occurs. And again, how to recover from it and how to continue your business shortly thereafter. The emergency preparedness and business continuity plan should also have how to prepare and train, how to be ready, including potentially drills, how to evacuate, all of those different areas, how to recover and get back to business, as I mentioned, is really important. In some cases, it's necessary to identify a secondary office that you can use in case of an emergency, where you can move your leadership and your operation to that location temporarily. And it's also important to understand who is going to do what, and to know this ahead of time, because when the emergency comes about, usually it's very chaotic and very difficult. So it's important to have all of these components of what you're going to do in emergency preparedness and business continuity ready before you have an actual emergency. And again, alternative sites are important, where you can actually move your operation temporarily so you can continue your business, which is important. And having that ahead of time and planning for that ahead of time is really, really critical. Here's some final thoughts. I would recommend that you consider not being penny wise and pound foolish. Most organizations have a specific focus, providing a service, creating some kind of software, or perhaps manufacturing some product. And security and safety sometimes can take a backseat to those priorities. But security and risk management are key to continuing your operation. And there is oftentimes some hesitancy to spend money ahead of time to prepare for these things. And then when you have an actual incident, there's no end to how much money you end up spending to resolve the problem that has occurred. So an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. Don't be penny wise and pound foolish, and consider doing this different preventive plans and policies and procedures ahead of time, so you can be ready, and perhaps you can either prevent or better manage a situation if it does occur to you and your company. Because there are only two kinds of organizations and companies: one that has had an issue with security and risk, and one that is going to have an issue with security and risk. And really, no one is exempt from having these kinds of problems. So plan ahead, put together your policies and procedures, be ready for this, and make make life a little bit easier for your management, your leadership, and yourself. The work involved needs to be commensurate with your company size and budget, of course. If you're a multinational organization, you probably have internal resources that can manage all of these things. If you're a medium to small size business, that may not be the case. So consider your budget, consider the size of your operation, and right size the security, risk, emergency preparedness, and business continuity plans to the size of your organization and your budget. It can be done. It is not an incredibly difficult process. It does take work, but it's better to stay ahead of it and do it ahead of time than to have an incident and have no plan or have difficulty dealing with it. The work can be done internally if you have resources. If you don't have resources internally, asking for help is important. There's lots of external resources that you can contact to help you with this, including Tau Global, of course. Keeping people safe should be your top priority. Again, you have a specific product or service that you're providing, but without the people that work for you, your employees, it's very difficult to make all of that happen. So keeping your workplace safe and secure should be a top priority for your organization. And security and risk prevention should be woven into every aspect of running your organization. It should just become second nature. That whenever you are engaging in an activity, traveling somewhere, handling a matter, security should be top of mind, and it should be at the forefront of your efforts as you go about doing your business. And then finally, there are many resources available to help you keep your workplace safe. If you don't have internal resources, make sure that you consider bringing in outside support to help you. This is all I have. Julie, thank you so much. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Oscar. As always, we hope this has been informative and useful for our viewing audience, and we welcome all questions you may have about organizational security or any other security-related matter. Feel free to visit us at talglobal.com and click on the Talk to Us button. We hope you'll join us again for our next free presentation. Thanks again, and have a great rest of the day.